Hi, I'm Caroline. You know, when people ask what makes a good marriage, I used to say communication and trust. Funny how life teaches you lessons the hard way. After 5 years of what I thought was a solid marriage to David, I learned those words meant nothing to him. Babe, you'll be proud of me. I just landed the Anderson account. I remember telling him over the phone from my business trip last month. We both had successful careers. Me in marketing, him in his father's company. That's great, honey. Hey, when are you coming back? Thursday. Miss our beautiful home already. 2 weeks is too long to be away. Our two-story Victorian was my dream house. We'd spent a year renovating it together, or so I thought. Looking back, his mother Margaret had her fingerprints all over those decisions. She had opinions about everything. The curtains, the paint colors, even which side of the bed we should sleep on. But David always said she meant well. His dad, Richard, was different. A self-made businessman who built his company from scratch. He never interfered, just gave advice when asked. I respected that about him. I think you're being too sensitive about Mom, David would say whenever I brought up her controlling behavior. She just wants the best for us. That Thursday, I came home early to surprise David. Instead, I got the surprise of my life. Oh, Caroline, you're back! Margaret emerged from our guest room wearing a bathrobe. My guest room. Why are you here? David didn't tell you? My house is being renovated. Complete mess, really. He said I could stay here temporarily. I stood there, suitcase still in hand, watching her glide down our hallway like she owned the place. My hallway. Our home. It's just for a few weeks, honey. David appeared behind me, his voice soft but with that tone he uses when he's already made up his mind. Mom's contractor messed up big time. She needs somewhere to stay while they fix everything. And you didn't think to discuss this with me first? You were away, and it was an emergency. I couldn't just let her stay in a hotel. Actually, you could have. Or better yet, waited to talk to me about it. Don't be like that. She's family. I watched as Margaret rearranged my carefully curated coffee table books. These will look much better this way, don't you think, David? See? Mom's already making the place homier. That's when I realized this wasn't temporary. The look in Margaret's eyes said it all. She was marking her territory, and my husband had just handed her the keys to our life. The renovation shouldn't take more than a month, David added, but I barely heard him. I was too busy watching Margaret adjust the thermostat. Our thermostat. In our home, where she now lived. Welcome home to me, right? The next morning, I scrolled through local rental listings to help find Margaret a place. That's when I saw it. Her house, listed for rent, complete with virtual tour. Hey, David, why is your mom's house on rentspace.com? What? That's impossible. Her house is under renovation. Really? Because these photos were taken last week according to the listing? You must be mistaken. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Garden view. It's definitely her house. Let me see that. Mom, can you come here a minute? Margaret waltzed in, already dressed in her tennis outfit. What's wrong, sweetie? Is your house really being renovated? Of course it is. Caroline, are you implying I'm lying? I showed her the phone. Her face didn't even flinch. Oh, that old listing. My realtor must have forgotten to take it down. I'll call her right away. But she didn't. Instead, she spent the day reorganizing my kitchen. I came home to find all my spices alphabetized, and my grandmother's china replaced with her own. The feng shui is much better now, she declared, placing her porcelain figurines on my windowsill. That's when Amanda, David's sister, dropped by unexpectedly. Holy shit, Mom's living here? Caroline, can we talk privately? In my home office, Amanda spilled everything. She did this to my marriage, too. Claimed her condo was being fumigated. 6 months later, Tom and I were divorced. She'd even started answering my house phone, telling people I wasn't available. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app. What are you doing? Getting evidence. David thinks I'm imagining things. As if on cue, Margaret's voice carried from downstairs. David, honey, don't you think Caroline works too much? A wife should be more present. Maybe if she were home more. I hit record. Classic mom. Amanda muttered. Wait till Dad finds out she's renting her house. Does Richard know she's here? No, but he will. Tonight's their weekly dinner. Later that evening, David confronted me about the mess in the kitchen. Mom spent hours organizing everything. Couldn't you just leave it? It's my kitchen. Our kitchen. And Mom's just trying to help. By completely taking over? You're being paranoid. Mom said you've been acting strange lately. Maybe you're working too hard? My phone buzzed. Amanda. Dad just found out. He's livid. Called the realtor himself. Mom's house has been rented out for a year lease. Started last month. She planned this whole thing. I looked at David, still defending his mother's kitchen coup, and realized this was just the beginning. Maybe we should think about couples counseling, he suggested. Mom knows a great therapist. Of course she did. I heard the shouting from upstairs. Richard had stormed into our house, his voice thundering through the halls. You lied to my face, son. Your mother's house isn't under renovation. She's making $2,500 a month renting it out. Dad, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. I called the contractor. There was never any renovation planned. I crept downstairs, finding Mike, David's best friend, awkwardly sitting on our couch. He'd come over to watch the game but got front row seats to family drama instead. All these years of covering for her, I've had enough, Richard continued. You want to risk your position in my company for your mother's schemes? It's not like that. Then what's it like? Because from where I'm standing, you've become just another one of her pawns. I slipped into my home office, needing to grab some files for work, only to find Margaret hunched over my desk, rifling through my personal documents. What are you doing with my papers? Oh, just tidying up. You really should organize these better. That's my private medical information. Hey, everyone! Mike appeared in the doorway. Margaret, is that Caroline's fertility paperwork? The shouting downstairs stopped. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Mom, what the hell? David finally looked shocked. I was just trying to understand why you two haven't given me grandchildren yet. Caroline's obviously hiding something. Those are private medical records, Richard boomed. David, this ends now or you're done at the company. But Dad, no buts. Choose, your mother's manipulation or your future. That's when our neighbor Susan knocked on the door. Caroline, I just wanted to check if you're okay. Margaret mentioned at book club that you've been struggling with substance issues? My jaw dropped. What? She said that's why you've been working such long hours and looking so tired lately. That's a lie. Mike stepped forward. I've known Caroline for years. She doesn't even drink. Get out of my house. I turned to Margaret. Now, David, are you going to let her talk to me like that? But David stood frozen, looking between his father and mother. Son? Richard's voice was deadly calm. You have until tomorrow to decide. Either your mother moves out, or you lose your inheritance and your job. You can't be serious, Margaret started. Watch me. I've spent 30 years building this company. I won't let you destroy it like you destroyed your daughter's marriage. That was different. Was it? Because from where I'm standing, history's repeating itself. David, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I want your decision. As Richard left, Margaret turned to David, tears flowing. You wouldn't choose that cold-hearted woman over your own mother, would you? Mike stood up, heading for the door. Dude, if you pick wrong on this one, we're done. This is messed up. I've never seen David look so lost. But honestly, I was already planning my next move. The next morning, I walked into Richard's office with a USB drive and my phone. Before you make any decisions about David, you need to hear this. I played the recordings. Every manipulative conversation, every lie Margaret had told, every time David enabled her behavior. There's more. Amanda sent me these text messages from when Margaret did the same thing to her marriage. This is a pattern, Richard shook his head. One I should have stopped years ago. His intercom buzzed. Sir, David is here. Good morning, son. Please explain why you're 2 hours late. Mom wasn't feeling well. You're fired. What? Clean out your desk. Your executive access is already revoked. I stood up, placing my house keys on Richard's desk. The movers are coming today. I'll be staying with Amanda. You can't just leave, David started. Actually, my lawyer says I can. The divorce papers are being delivered to your office. Well, your old office. Back at home, Margaret was directing movers, but not the ones I'd hired. These nice men are helping me bring in my antique furniture. Stop, now. Richard walked in behind me. Margaret, your rental scheme is done. I've already contacted your tenants. You had no right. Like you had no right to destroy our son's marriage? Or Amanda's? The country club committee would love to hear about this. And your book club. And the church board. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Mike already posted about it in the neighborhood Facebook group. David burst in. They're changing the locks at work. My credit cards are canceled. Your trust fund too, Richard added. I've redirected those assets to a foundation for divorced women rebuilding their lives. Caroline will be on the board. You can't do this to us, Margaret wailed. Watch me. Caroline, my lawyer will ensure you get the house and the settlement. Consider it compensation for what you've endured. 2 weeks later, I watched from my front porch, as Margaret loaded her last boxes into a moving van. Where will you go? Amanda asked, sitting beside me with coffee. Back to her house. Her tenants broke the lease after Richard showed them proof of her illegal subletting. And David? Living in a studio apartment. Mike says none of their friends will talk to him anymore. Richard pulled into the driveway. The foundation paperwork is ready for your signature. And I've written you a recommendation letter for that marketing firm in Chicago. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're the daughter I wished I'd had. David and Margaret made their choices. Now they can live with them. I watched Margaret's van drive away, her American dream house now legally mine. Ready for your fresh start? Amanda smiled. Looking at my newly peaceful home, I finally felt free. More than ready. And this time, no one's moving in without my permission. What would you do if your spouse moved their parent into your home without consulting you first? Would you try to work it out? Or is this a deal breaker that shows deeper trust issues in the marriage? Share your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed Caroline's journey of standing up for herself, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama stories. Every marriage has boundaries. Where do you draw yours?